Am I the jerk for not wanting to go to my father's wedding because of comments his fiancé has made about my autistic younger sister? I, 24F, always thought I had a pretty normal family. My parents divorced when I was 16, and my dad, 52M, started dating his fiancée Linda, 50F, about 2 years ago. My mom, 51F, and dad split amicably enough. They co-parented my younger sister, Emily, 15F, who is autistic. Emily is on the moderate end of the spectrum. She can communicate verbally, and she's one of the sweetest, smartest kids I know, but she struggles with social situations and can get overwhelmed easily. Loud noises, sudden changes, big crowds, those can all be really tough for her. Despite that, she loves family gatherings in her own way. She'll spend weeks beforehand picking out the perfect dress or practicing what she'll say. She genuinely just wants to be included and feel normal, whatever normal is. Dad has always been generally good with Emily. He learned how to calm her during her meltdowns, attended her school IEP meetings, and was so proud when she learned to ride a bike. So I never, ever expected that he of all people would tolerate someone looking down on her. And Linda, well, I'll be honest, I never totally clicked with her, but I tried. She's a bit reserved, kind of a proper lady type. She always seemed slightly uncomfortable around Emily, but I figured maybe she just didn't know much about autism. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I was naive. The wedding is set for next month. At first, I was genuinely happy for Dad. He seemed lonely after the divorce, and I wanted him to find companionship. Mom's been dating someone new for a while, so it's not like I expected my parents to get back together or anything. When Dad told us he proposed to Linda, I remember Emily clapped her hands and said, "Can I be a flower girl?" She was so excited. Linda smiled and said something like, "Oh honey, you're a bit old to be a flower girl, but we'll find a special role for you." I thought that was a sweet response at the time. Now, I wonder if she ever meant it. Fast forward to a week ago. Wedding planning is in full swing. I was supposed to be a bridesmaid. Emily was going to stand with the family during the ceremony, not exactly a bridesmaid, but as an attendant of some sort, which she was thrilled about. We had our dresses picked out and everything. One evening, I was at Dad and Linda's place helping assemble some DIY wedding favors. It was just me, Linda, and one of her friends, a bridesmaid of hers. Dad had stepped out to pick up dinner for us. We were drinking wine. Well, not Emily, obviously. She was at Mom's that night. And at first it was actually kind of fun. They were chatting about wedding details, typical pre-wedding excited chatter. I was mostly listening, chiming in here and there. Then Linda's friend asked something like, "So, is everything set for the ceremony? Any last-minute issues?" Linda sighed and said, "Well, we did have to make some adjustments for Emily." Hearing my sister's name made me tune in more closely. She continued, in this slightly lowered voice, "You know, Emily's condition means we can't predict how she'll do in a big event. I'm just hoping she can handle it and not cause too much distraction." I felt a prickling in my chest. A distraction? Why would she say that? Her friend made an understanding face, but I interjected gently. "Emily does pretty well in most events. She really is excited to come." I was trying to keep it light, maybe give Linda an out to say something nicer. Linda kind of smiled at me and said, "Oh, of course. I'm excited too. I just want to make sure she won't be overwhelmed. It's your dad's big day after all, and mine too. We just want it to be perfect." Her tone was sugary sweet, but something felt off. I decided to drop it at that moment, not wanting to argue. But it didn't sit right with me. Perfect? As if my sister being herself would make it less perfect? I tried to brush it off as pre-wedding stress. We went back to making favors. I was quieter though, my mind racing. The friend eventually went to the bathroom, and that's when I overheard something that made my stomach turn. Linda had stepped away into the next room, the kitchen, to grab more ribbon or something. She was on the phone, talking softly. Maybe she thought I couldn't hear her. I heard her say, "I just hope Dad's name's younger daughter doesn't do something crazy. I know that sounds awful, but she's unpredictable. I just want one day that's about us, not his autistic daughter." I froze. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. Did I hear that right? Not his autistic daughter, like my sister is some sort of sideshow or burden. She said it in this exasperated, almost whining tone. I didn't catch who she was talking to, maybe her mother or another friend, because my mind went blank with rage for a second. I must have made some kind of noise or movement, because Linda suddenly peeked back into the dining room where I was. We made this awkward eye contact. She looked startled, like a kid caught with her hand in the cookie jar. She quickly ended the call. I heard her say, "I'll call you back." I just stared at her, and she kind of stared back. There was this heavy, tense silence for a moment. Then she stepped fully back into the room and said, "Everything okay?" with this strained smile. I knew if I opened my mouth, I'd either start screaming or crying or both. So I just muttered, I think I'm actually not feeling well. I'm gonna head out. I gathered my purse and basically bolted. She started to say something like, oh, I hope you feel better, but I was already out the door. In the car, I just lost it. I was shaking, crying, yelling to myself like a lunatic. Thank God I didn't crash the car driving home. I had to pull over a block from their house to breathe because I was that upset. How could she say that? Was that what she really thought of my sister? That my sister might ruin her day? That the day my dad marries her is about us, not his autistic daughter? She said it like my sister was just an obstacle, not a human being, not his child. I got home. I live with my mom currently to save money. Plus, I like being around to help with Emily. Mom saw my face and immediately asked what happened. I broke down crying and told her. Mom was livid. I've rarely seen her that angry. She basically went into mama bear mode and wanted to call dad right that second. I begged her not to, not yet. I needed to figure out how to approach this, and honestly I was scared and needed to calm down first. I spent the night oscillating between fury and heartbreak. I barely slept. I kept hearing Linda's voice in my head, that dismissive tone, and then I started recalling little things. Like how a few months ago, at a family barbecue, Linda had suggested Emily wear headphones so she doesn't get overwhelmed, even though Emily was fine and having a blast with our cousins. At the time I thought, okay, thoughtful maybe, but now I wonder if it was more about not wanting to hear Emily humming. She hums when she's content. Or how Linda always made sure any dinners out were at quiet, upscale restaurants and not the noisy pizza place Emily loves. We often ended up declining those invites because they weren't really Emily-friendly, and Linda would act like, oh, it's okay, maybe next time. At the time, I just thought Linda and Dad enjoyed fancier places and didn't hold it against them. Now, I see a pattern, and it makes me sick. By morning, I knew I had to talk to Dad. I texted him asking if we could meet for coffee, just us. He agreed, apparently oblivious to anything being wrong. I guess Linda didn't tell him I stormed off, or she lied about why. We met at a local coffee shop. As soon as I saw him, I felt a lump in my throat. This is my dad, the guy who held my hand when I cried after a middle school breakup, who taught me how to drive, who teared up at Emily's middle school graduation because he was so proud of her. How do I even begin to tell him what I heard? I think he could tell I'd been crying. He immediately said, "Sweetie, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I just said, "I'm not okay, Dad." And without much finesse, I blurted out, "I heard Linda on the phone last night. I heard what she said about Emily." He looked confused, concerned. "What do you mean? What did she say?" he asked. I took a deep breath. My hands were literally trembling around my coffee cup. She called Emily his autistic daughter and said she doesn't want the day to be about anyone but you two. She said she hopes Emily doesn't do something crazy and cause a distraction. I could feel my voice rising and shaking. People at nearby tables glanced over. I probably sounded on the verge of hysteria. Dad put his hand up in a calming gesture. Okay, let's talk about this." He was a little embarrassed by the scene I was causing, I think. He ushered me out to the patio where it was empty. I was glad for privacy too, because I was about to explode. As soon as we were outside, I said, "Dad, how can you marry someone who talks that way about your own child?" I didn't yell it, but my voice was raw. I could feel tears in my eyes. He looked upset, but notably, he looked upset at me. "She didn't mean it like that," he said quickly. "I'm sure she was just venting out of context. You know there's been a lot of stress with the wedding planning." I stared at him. "Venting? Dad, she basically said Emily would ruin the wedding. How else could she mean it?" He pinched the bridge of his nose, a thing he does when he's frustrated. "Look, I know how you might have taken it, but Linda really does care about Emily. She's just nervous everything goes smoothly. She doesn't have much experience with, autism. It's a learning curve." I felt a cold anger. "So that's an excuse to call her a distraction? To call your daughter his autistic daughter, like Emily isn't even a person to her?" He snapped back. "Don't twist her words. She was referring to me when she said his daughter. And she didn't call Emily a distraction. She was worried about a potential distraction. There's a difference." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own father was defending this. "Why are you bending over backwards to defend her, Dad? Why can't you just acknowledge that what she said was horrible?" He sighed heavily and said something that truly stung. "You have to understand it from her perspective too. A wedding can be overwhelming. Even you get overwhelmed sometimes by your sister's episodes. Remember your high school graduation when Emily had a meltdown because of the crowd? You were mortified then." I felt like I'd been slapped. Yes, I remembered. I was 18 and immature, and yeah, when Emily had a meltdown at my graduation, I was embarrassed in front of my friends. But I grew up. I love my sister more than anything and would never feel that way now. The fact that he threw that at me as if I should sympathize with Linda over it, it broke something in me. Tears started rolling down my face. I was a teenager, Dad, and I am so ashamed I ever felt that way. But what's your excuse? You're 50 fucking two. I swore, low and harsh. I didn't care if it was a public place. I don't usually swear at my dad. That might have been the first time, actually. He looked taken aback and then angry. Watch it, he warned. I know you're emotional, but I'm still your father. I almost laughed, but it came out as a strangled hiccup. Are you? Because right now, I feel like I'm talking to a stranger who cares more about his fiancé's fragile feelings than his own daughter. He started saying something about me being unfair. I think I cut him off. It gets a bit blurry in my memory because I was so upset. I remember asking him point blank, "Did you know she felt this way about Emily? Did you know and still ask us to be in the wedding?" His face sort of changed then. He looked guilty. That was it. That expression gave him away. My voice dropped to a whisper. "Oh my God, you did know, didn't you?" He quickly denied it. "It's not like that. Linda doesn't feel some way about Emily. She loves Emily, she really does. She thought maybe a big event like this might be too much for her. She was thinking of Emily too, not wanting to put her in a situation that could cause a meltdown." I just stared in disbelief. So she suggested what? Not having Emily at the wedding? Dad avoided my eyes, which was answer enough. I pressed, "Answer me. Did she or you not want Emily at the wedding?" He snapped, "Of course I want Emily at my wedding. She's my daughter. But I also don't want her to be miserable if it's too loud or hectic. We were considering having her just come to a smaller family celebration after we get back from the honeymoon, something she'd enjoy more." I cannot fully describe the fire that ignited in me hearing that. "So yes," I practically growled. "You were going to exclude her from the wedding." He said, "Not exclude. We would have celebrated separately with her. It was just an idea, nothing decided. I was going to talk to your mother about it." I cut in. "Mom would never agree to that, and you know it. That's why you hadn't mentioned it to her yet, right? Because it was a bullshit idea." I was nearly choking on my tears and anger. "How could you even think of having a wedding without Emily there, Dad? She has been looking forward to it for months. She calls it the party and talks about her dress every day. She's your family. We're your family. Not just props you can move or remove to have your perfect day." He had tears in his eyes now too. "I never said I would remove her. It was just something we discussed because I don't want her overwhelmed. And fine, I should have told you kids about that conversation. I'm sorry." I realized then that he truly didn't get it. "You're sorry for not telling us? That's what you're apologizing for, not for the fact you even considered it in the first place." He looked at me, eyes red, and quietly said, "I was just trying to do what's best for everyone." I sank down onto one of the patio chairs because my knees felt weak. I was so hurt. Best for everyone, or easiest for Linda? I asked in a hollow voice. He sat next to me, reaching for my hand, but I pulled it back. "Listen," he said, "I know you're upset. Maybe Linda phrased it poorly, but she really does care. She even included Emily in the ceremony plan as an attendant, right? She's trying. She's not a bad person." I shook my head. "Including her in the ceremony plan? What plan? Standing off to the side while you marry her? That was the bare minimum. And you know Emily was kind of sad she couldn't be a real bridesmaid or flower girl like she imagined. I told her being an attendant was just as important because I didn't want her feelings hurt." He opened his mouth, closed it, and then said softly, "I appreciate you looking out for your sister. I really do." I cut him off again, anger boiling over. "Then why aren't you looking out for her? Why is it okay for your soon-to-be wife to talk about her like she's some animal that might misbehave?" He bristled again. "That's not what she meant, and you know it. You're putting words in her mouth." It felt like we were going in circles. I realized he was never going to take my side on this, at least not now. He was in full wedding mode, ready to smooth over anything that could rock the boat. And apparently, that included his daughter calling out his fiancé's ableist bullshit. I stood up. "If you can't even acknowledge how wrong this is, I don't know what else to say to you." He stood too, looking tired and irritated. "What do you want me to do? Cancel the wedding over one comment? Because that's not happening. I love Linda, and we're getting married. I'd like you to be there, and I want Emily there. But I need you to not blow this out of proportion. We will make sure the day's not too hard on your sister. We have a plan." I felt a chill. "What plan?" He said. "We hired a helper, one of Linda's cousins who works with special needs kids, to kind of keep an eye on Emily during the event. To take her outside if things get too much, have quiet activities for her, that kind of thing." This was the first I'd heard of this. "When were you going to tell me or Mom about that?" I asked quietly. "I was going to mention it this week," he said. "It's for the best. This way, you and Mom can relax and enjoy, and Emily will have someone dedicated to her needs." I realized then, They had actually been planning to basically sideline my sister the entire day, like pawn her off on some minder so she wouldn't be their problem at the wedding, so she wouldn't bother them. I felt something inside me break. The hurt was turning into pure anger now. You know what, Dad? If you're so worried about me causing a scene by being upset, fine. I'll make it easy. I won't be there. How about that? His eyes widened. What are you talking about? Of course you'll be there. You're my daughter. You're a bridesmaid. I shook my head slowly, heart pounding. Not anymore. I refuse to be a part of this disgusting charade. He looked like I'd slapped him. You're seriously not coming to my wedding? He asked, voice low and disbelieving. Not if things stay like this, I said. Not if you keep pretending that what Linda said and what you're planning to do to Emily is okay. Do to Emily? We're not doing anything to Emily except trying to ensure she has a good time in a way that suits her needs, he argued, anger creeping back into his tone. By shuffling her off away from you and your new wife? By making sure she doesn't steal any attention that should be on you too? Yeah, I heard exactly what Linda meant, Dad. I'm not stupid. He pointed a finger at me, not like pointing at me, but in that parental scolding gesture. Be careful, my name. This is a lot of stress you're adding. We can talk about this more calmly later. I understand you're protective of your sister, and that's admirable. But you need to remember Linda is going to be your family too. She deserves some understanding. I almost couldn't breathe. More understanding than my own sister deserves? If Linda can't handle Emily at her wedding, she shouldn't be marrying a man with an autistic child, I spat out. He went very still and quiet then, the way he does when he's enraged but holding it in. I think you should leave, he said tightly. I grabbed my bag. Gladly. As I was walking away, he said, I expect you to cool down and be there. If you choose not to, then that's your choice, but you'll be hurting more than just Linda. You'll be hurting me, and even Emily, who wants you there. I spun around, tears streaming. Don't you dare turn this on me. I'm trying to protect Emily. I'm not the one hurting her. Look in the mirror, Dad. He looked pained, but I didn't wait for another response. I walked off, got in my car, and just sobbed. I sobbed so hard I thought I'd puke. Now it's been a couple days since that blow-up. The wedding is in 1 week. I told Mom everything, and she's been nothing but supportive. In fact, she said if I don't go, she won't let Emily go either because she doesn't feel comfortable basically sending our little girl into an environment where the bride thinks she'll wreck the event. That actually made me feel conflicted. I don't want Emily to miss Dad's wedding entirely. She would be so confused and hurt. But at the same time, the thought of her being there and possibly sensing that she's not truly welcome, that breaks my heart too. Mom hasn't decided for sure about letting Emily attend or not. She has primary custody, so technically it's her call, though legally because it's a big event, they both have to agree on schedule changes. I'm supposed to be bridesmaid, so by default I'd be with Dad on wedding day, but obviously I'm not doing that now. I haven't officially told Dad I'm out beyond that fight, but I'm about to. I'm dreading that call or message, but I know I have to send it soon so he can figure out his bridal party without me. Or he can freaking explain to everyone why his daughter isn't there. Part of me can't believe this is happening. I always imagined when Dad got married again, I'd be there crying happy tears, not crying because I'm furious at him. Our extended family is starting to get wind of the drama. My aunt, Dad's sister, texted me saying she heard I might not come and that I should not make any rash decisions I'll regret. I haven't replied. I don't know what Dad told people. I'm guessing he's not telling them the full story. Maybe he's saying I have personal issues with Linda or something. I don't care right now. I haven't spoken a word to Linda since that night. She texted me once, a very brief, heard you talk to your dad. I hope we can discuss this soon. I didn't mean to upset you or Emily. 3-inch. Yes, a freaking heart emoji. I have not responded. I don't have words for her that wouldn't be extremely nasty right now. So yeah, I'm basically preparing to be persona non grata at my own father's wedding. Half my family will probably hate me or think I'm an ungrateful drama queen. But I can't just go and smile and play along like everything's fine, not after what I heard and what was confirmed. I can't. It would feel like betraying my sister. I keep going back and forth. Am I doing the right thing? Should I suck it up and just be there for Dad and keep an eye on Emily myself to make sure she's okay? Would that be better for her? Or would me being there just signal to Dad and Linda that I'm okay with their approach, which I'm not? Mom says she's behind me whatever I choose. A couple of my friends I vented to say I'm 100% in the right, that if they were me they'd refuse to go too. One even suggested I blow it up on Facebook, which I'm not going to do. I'm not trying to cause a spectacle. Even if a petty part of me wants to call them out, I know that won't actually help anything. But I also think of my sister's face. How do I explain to her that I won't be at the wedding? She idolizes me. I'm not bragging. She just imprints on people she trusts and I'm one of the few who really get her. If I tell her I'm not going, she'll want to know why. How do I tell a 15-year-old autistic girl, I'm not going because your presence is unwanted by the bride? I've tried to shield her from all this. Ugh, this is such a mess. My heart aches. I'm angry, but I'm also just so sad. I feel like I'm mourning the relationship I thought I had with my father. The dad I knew would have defended his daughter. The dad I knew wouldn't let anyone make him even consider excluding Emily from something so important. I don't know who this person is right now. So here I am, utterly torn. Do I cave and go to the wedding for the sake of keeping the peace? Just swallow my anger for one day? Do I stay home and stand by my principles and protect my sister from a distance and risk losing my dad over it? Is there even a winning move here? I honestly feel like there's no good answer. I'm sick to my stomach thinking about next weekend. Any advice or perspective would be appreciated, because I feel like I'm too close to this. Am I overreacting? I don't think I am, but part of me keeps second-guessing. I just never imagined I'd be in this position, having to possibly choose between my father and my little sister. I love him, but I can't condone this. I just can't. TLDR, my dad's fiancé made disparaging comments about my autistic sister, her future stepdaughter, implying my sister might ruin their wedding. My dad has been defending the fiancé and even admitted they considered having a wedding without my sister there to avoid issues. I told him if he doesn't see the problem and keeps going down this path, I won't attend the wedding. Now I'm torn and the wedding is in a week. Family is pressuring me, and I feel like I'm losing my father over this while trying to stand up for my sister. Am I making the right choice by refusing to go? Or should I just suck it up for one day? Update 1. First, thank you so much to everyone who reached out and commented on my post. I didn't expect it to blow up like it did. I was an emotional wreck when I wrote it, but reading your responses over the past week has been eye-opening. I realize I'm not crazy for feeling the way I do. The support, and even some constructive criticism, helped me brace for what came next. The wedding was this past weekend, and as I was strongly leaning towards, I did not attend. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. Actually following through on it was even harder. In the days leading up, Dad and I barely communicated. I sent him a careful but firm text a few days before, saying I wouldn't be at the wedding unless things changed regarding Emily. I reiterated that I love him and wish him happiness, but I have to stand by what's right for my sister. He didn't respond for 2 days. When he finally did, all he said was, "I'll always love you. I hope you reconsider and come. Please." I didn't respond. I knew if I did, he'd try to pull me back in or guilt trip me, and I was barely holding it together as it was. Meanwhile, Mom had a dilemma about whether to allow Emily to attend at all. After a lot of back and forth and a heated phone call between her and Dad, from what I overheard, they reached a compromise. Mom would accompany Emily to the wedding. Apparently, Dad insisted Emily had to be there. "She's my daughter. She has to be there," he told Mom. And Mom finally agreed on the condition that she be there as well to watch over Em, since I, the usual go-to person for my sister at events, was not attending. Unorthodox. Yes, having your ex-wife at your wedding, but Dad was desperate not to have both his daughters absent. I heard Linda wasn't happy about it, but Dad put his foot down. Part of me smugly appreciated that he at least fought for Mom to be there if I couldn't, because he knew Emily would need familiar support. On the day of the wedding, I didn't stay home. I couldn't sit still. I went to a nearby nature park to clear my head and also to be away from the venue, which was only a few miles off. I spent the afternoon alternating between trying not to think about it and checking my phone for updates from Mom. Mom texted me before the ceremony, "We're here. Em looks beautiful. She's a little nervous, keeps asking for you." I told her you're sorry you couldn't come. I'm hanging in there. Reading that broke my heart and also relieved me a bit. Heartbroken that Emily was asking for me and I wasn't there. Relieved that Mom was keeping me updated and that Em was okay for now. I had to sit in my car after that text because I started crying. I kept reminding myself why I wasn't there. I was standing up for her. But how do you explain that to a 15-year-old who just wants her big sister by her side? The guilt was eating me alive. Around an hour later, Mom texted, she made it through the ceremony. It was tough. Loud organ music, crowded church. She got upset when the music started, so we stepped outside for a bit. She did okay after. She asked me, "Where's my name?" and cried a little. She's calm now, heading to the reception soon. I read that message and had to blink through tears. My baby sister actually cried at the ceremony because I wasn't there. I felt like the worst sister in the world, even though I know why I did this. I was literally crouched behind a tree at the park, crying as quietly as I could. It felt so cruel. The very thing I was doing to protect her feelings ended up hurting her in the moment. Later, another update from Mom. Em had a small meltdown during photos at the reception. Too many people, cameras flashing. I took her to a quiet room to calm down. She's okay now, just exhausted. Linda's mom muttered, poor thing, not sure if pity or annoyance. Dad checked on him once for a minute, but he's busy with guests. We're going to head home after the cake cutting. I clenched my jaw reading that. A meltdown during photos. It happened exactly how I feared. Emily isn't at fault at all. She tried her best, but it was sensory overload. Thank God Mom was there to handle it. The detail that stung the most, Dad only popped in briefly to check on her. I get that he's the groom and was busy, but still, if my child were having a breakdown at my wedding, I'd probably drop everything for her. Maybe that's unfair of me to say, I don't know, but it hurt. True to her word, Mom took Emily home early from the reception. They left right after the cake. I actually headed home myself once Mom said they were leaving. I wanted to be there when my sister got back. When they arrived, Emily looked worn out, but she was okay. We got her into comfy clothes and settled. She was a bit quiet, kind of in her own world, which she does when she's had too much stimulation. I hugged her and asked if she had fun. She said softly, "It was okay. I'm sad you missed it." The music was too loud. I told her I was so sorry I missed it and that I love her so much. She gave me a tired little smile and said, "Love you." Then she went to her room with her tablet to decompress. After she was settled, Mom and I sat in the living room, and I finally let out everything I'd been bottling up. We both cried. Mom told me she was proud of me for standing my ground. She also admitted she nearly kept Emily home, but Em was so excited that morning, asking, "Is it time for Daddy's party?" that Mom felt it would be cruel to refuse. So she went along for Emily, and a bit for Dad. She said, "I didn't do it for Linda. I did it for your father and Emily," were Mom's words. I asked Mom for more details. She confirmed what her text said. Ceremony was mostly okay, except they had to step out briefly due to the loud music. Mom said there was indeed an empty spot up front where I would have been, and a few people whispered asking where I was. She overheard one of Dad's cousins say, "Wasn't my name supposed to be a bridesmaid? Where is she?" So yeah, my absence was noticed, even if no one made a big deal of it at the time. Mom also told me that when she stepped out with Emily during the ceremony, my aunt, Dad's sister, followed to check on them. My aunt then quietly asked Mom why I wasn't there. Mom gave her a brief version, that I had a serious disagreement with Linda and chose not to attend. Apparently, my aunt just pursed her lips and said, "I see. I'm so sorry." She didn't press for details then, probably not wanting to stir up drama at the church. At the reception, Mom mostly stayed in a quieter side area with Emily. A couple relatives who know my mom came over to greet her and Em and delicately asked about me. Mom again just said she needed to sit this one out. People looked concerned but didn't push in the moment. After hearing all this, I felt a mixture of sadness and vindication. Sadness that it really played out as such a tense, fractured event for our family. Vindication that I wasn't crazy to be worried. My sister did struggle, and Dad and Linda's approach, having Mom/cousin there as a helper, was only a partial solution. Later that night, I peeked at social media out of morbid curiosity. Some guests had posted smiling wedding photos. Dad and Linda looked happy in the pictures I saw, which twisted the knife in a way, even though of course they'd only share the good moments. In those snaps, I noticed my sister wasn't really visible, likely because she wasn't present for many of the group shots, having left early. And obviously, I wasn't in any photos either. It was as if neither of us were part of the celebration. I closed the apps feeling sick and haven't looked since. As of now, I still haven't heard from Dad directly. No call or text post-wedding. Not even a "Did Emily get home okay?" or "We missed you." Nothing. I know he's on a short honeymoon getaway, just a long weekend trip, but I also know he's had time to call or message if he really wanted to. The silence is deafening. One person I did hear from was my aunt, Dad's sister. I had given Mom permission to fill her in on the basic gist afterwards, because I trust my aunt and I knew she'd find out anyway. My aunt sent me a long text the day after the wedding saying she was so sorry I was put in this position and that she had a talk with my dad quietly during the reception. She told me that she asked him point blank why I wasn't there. According to her, Dad looked really sad and said, "She chose not to come. We had a disagreement. It's my fault. I hope she'll forgive me." My aunt didn't push him more then. His eyes were apparently tearing up and she didn't want to make a scene on his wedding day, but she told me, "He knows he messed up. He looked heartbroken that you weren't there." Hearing that makes me feel a little better, because at least he isn't brushing it off. It sounds like he regrets how it went down, but it also frustrates me if he knows he messed up. Why hasn't he reached out to me to apologize or talk? Maybe he's giving me space. Maybe he's ashamed. Or maybe he's still under Linda's influence and doesn't know what to say. I honestly don't know. Linda hasn't contacted me again either. Not that I expected much, honestly. Maybe she thinks what's done is done and it's on Dad to mend fences. Fine by me. So that's where things stand a few days later. I'm emotionally exhausted, but I'm not sorry I stood up for my sister. Emily, thankfully, seems to be okay now that the hoopla is over. She actually hasn't talked about the wedding much since that night, which is probably for the best. As for my dad, he's married to Linda now. We're all living with the aftermath. I have no idea what will happen with my relationship with him going forward. I hope at some point he and I can really talk, but I'm not ready yet, and apparently neither is he. Honestly, I still love him so much, but I'm also so hurt and angry. He was supposed to be my hero, and by extension our hero for Emily too. Instead, I feel like he let us both down when it mattered most. Thank you again to everyone who offered support or advice. It helped me keep my resolve on a very hard day. I'll post another update if there's any major development. I'm not sure what I even want to happen next. I guess deep down I want my dad to wake up, to truly understand and make this right somehow. But real life isn't that simple. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time and focusing on making sure Emily feels loved and secure. The rest, we'll see. Update 2. I honestly didn't expect to be back with another update so soon. I thought it might be months, if ever, before things shifted. But a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks, and it's equal parts surprising and heartbreaking. After the wedding, Dad and I stayed in cold silence for about a week. He got back from his short honeymoon a few days ago. I knew he was back, my aunt mentioned it, but he still hadn't reached out. I was bracing myself for the possibility that he might not contact me at all, that our relationship might truly be broken. Then, out of the blue, he texted me. It was a fairly long message for him. He said he was sorry for how things went at the wedding, that he missed me, and that he wanted to talk if I was willing. He even wrote, "I realize I have a lot to make amends for." That line caught me off guard. It sounded humble, like maybe he finally understood. I did miss him, and I did want to try to fix things. So I agreed to meet. We decided to talk at his house, the one he now shares with Linda. He said we'd have privacy and that Linda would be out for the afternoon. I was nervous driving over. I hadn't been there since before our big fight. Walking in felt strange, like stepping into someone else's house. Dad looked worn out when he greeted me. He gave a weak smile and led me to the living room. There was an awkward silence. I noticed the wedding photo album on the coffee table. Seeing it made my chest ache, so I quietly closed it and pushed it aside. He noticed and murmured, "Sorry," then moved it off the table entirely. That broke the ice. He took a deep breath and said, voice trembling, "I owe you the biggest apology of my life." He explained that on the honeymoon, he couldn't stop thinking about me not being at the wedding and about how badly things went for Emily. Seeing her meltdown at the reception was a wake-up call. He realized he'd been fooling himself and that he seriously messed up. He admitted he handled everything wrong. He said he should have listened to me, should have stood up for Emily, and never should have put me in the position to choose. "I failed you, both of you. I'm so sorry," he said, with tears in his eyes. Hearing my dad say that broke something open in me. I started crying too. I told him how much he'd hurt me, how I felt so betrayed that he defended Linda, how awful it was to miss his wedding, but that I did it because I felt I had no other choice to protect my sister. He kept saying, "I know, I'm sorry, you're right." It was hard to hear him take the blame, but also such a relief that he finally got it. We talked for maybe an hour. We both cried, and even shared a couple of sad laughs about what a mess things had become. He said he was going to apologize to Mom as well, especially for even entertaining the idea of excluding Emily. I could see the remorse all over him. I wasn't ready to say all is forgiven. Yet, there's a lot of hurt, but for the first time I felt hopeful that we might actually come out of this okay eventually. Then, right when things were starting to feel a little resolved, we heard keys in the front door. Linda came home early. She walked in and immediately noticed me. Her expression went from neutral to irritated in a split second. "Oh," she said almost icily. "Hi, my name." I tensed up. "Hi," I said softly. Dad quickly stood up, wiping his eyes. "You're back early," he said, voice uneasy. She stepped in, setting down some shopping bags. "I didn't know we were having company," she said, a chilly edge to her voice. Dad started to say something, but I spoke first. "We were just talking things out," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. Linda crossed her arms, hovering in the doorway. "Talking things out," she repeated. "Let me guess, about the wedding? About what an awful person I am." She gave a short, bitter laugh. "I figured you'd come here eventually to blame us some more." I bit my tongue and looked to Dad. He looked torn, like he didn't know whose side to stand on in that moment. But he had just spent an hour apologizing to me, and I wasn't about to let her twist the narrative now. "I'm not here to play the blame game," I said evenly. "I just needed to clear the air with my father." She rolled her eyes. "Right. Look, I really don't want to do this. This whole thing has been hard on everyone, me included. The wedding is over, We need to move on. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones for your father's sake. She said it like she was granting a big favor, like she was willing to graciously overlook my misbehavior. It made my blood boil. Move on without addressing anything? I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Just pretend none of it happened. Yes, she replied a bit tersely. I think that's best. We're family now whether we like it or not. Dad jumped in gently. Linda, maybe we all need to apologize and dash. She cut him off, not even glancing his way. I have nothing to apologize for, she said, chin raised. Then she looked directly at me. I'm sorry you got upset, but I never meant to hurt anyone. I was just stressed about the wedding. Anyone in my position would worry about things going smoothly. It was basically the same non-apology she'd given via text. I'm sorry you got upset, which puts the burden on me being overly sensitive. I felt a surge of anger. You might not have meant harm, but what you said was still really hurtful, I said, my voice trembling despite my effort to steady it. You spoke about Emily like she was a problem. You didn't want the day to be about his autistic daughter. Can you honestly not see why that would upset me? Linda sighed dramatically. I was concerned about her, and yes, about the ceremony. It's not like I have tons of experience with autistic kids. Maybe I didn't phrase things well, but I was doing my best. It's not a crime to want our wedding to be perfect. Of course not, I snapped back. But it is pretty cruel to act like your stepdaughter might ruin your perfect day. Do you even realize how excluded and unwanted that would make her feel if she knew? How it made me feel to hear it. Her eyes narrowed. I tried to include her. I gave her a role in the ceremony. I cared about her being comfortable. You act like I hate her. I don't. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You have a funny way of showing it. You were ready to have a wedding without her there at all. At that, Linda's temper flared visibly. That was never set in stone. It was an idea your father and I discussed because we genuinely thought a big event might be too much for her. We wanted what was best for everyone, including Emily. You took it the worst way possible. Before I could answer, she barreled on, voice rising. You know what? I have tried with you and your sister. But from day one, you've been judging me, waiting for me to screw up. You decided I'm the villain no matter what. And then you boycotted our wedding and made us look like fools. Do you know how humiliating that was? I felt my face heat up. I didn't do that to humiliate you, I said, matching her volume now. I did it because I won't stand by someone disrespecting my sister. If you think that's me making you a villain, so be it. You dug that hole yourself. Her mouth fell open in angry shock. I was under a lot of pressure planning that wedding. Forgive me for not handling your sister perfectly, but I am not some evil stepmother. This whole situation got blown way out of proportion by you. Proportion? My voice cracked on the word. You think this is my fault? You called my sister unpredictable, essentially said you didn't want her drawing attention. How did you expect me to react? At this point, we were practically yelling over each other. Dad was hovering nearby, wringing his hands. He finally shouted, "Enough!" Both of us stopped, breathing hard and glaring. I'd never heard Dad yell like that. He stepped between us, looking devastated. "This is tearing me apart," he said quietly, voice raw. He looked at Linda with tears in his eyes. "I love you, but I will not lose my daughters over this. I can't." Linda's face went pale. "And I was never trying to make you lose them," she snapped back. "But I also won't be cast as the wicked stepmother here. I just wanted to have a nice day with a normal family celebration. Is that so horrible?" Dad flinched as she emphasized normal family. He closed his eyes for a second, then spoke as calmly as he could. "I know you didn't intend for things to get so bad, but they did. And if I have to choose, I'm going to choose my kids every time." Linda stared at him like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. An unbearable silence hung between all of us. Her eyes welled up, but her expression was pure anger. She grabbed her purse and keys off the table. "I'm going to my mother's," she said coldly, voice shaking. "You can figure out your priorities without me here." With that, she walked out, slamming the door behind her. The second she was gone, all the strength seemed to go out of my dad. He slumped onto the couch, face in his hands. I stood there, adrenaline still coursing through me, heart breaking for him despite everything. I slowly sat down next to him. "Dad," I whispered. He looked up at me, and the pain in his eyes was staggering. He just started to sob, deep, quiet sobs that made his shoulders shake. I had never seen my father cry like that. It shattered me. I immediately wrapped my arms around him. I was crying too. "I'm sorry," I kept saying, without even knowing what part one was apologizing for. Maybe just that we were all in this terrible situation. "No, I'm sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry." He kept repeating it. "I should have fixed this before it got this far. I should have protected you both. I'm sorry." We held each other and cried for a long moment. It felt like we were mourning, mourning the family peace that used to exist, mourning the wedding that was supposed to be happy, mourning the fact that things would never be the same now. When we finally separated, he wiped his eyes, then suddenly grabbed the wedding album from the table. With a furious motion, he flung it across the room. It hit the wall, and a bunch of the photo pages spilled out. He didn't even look at it. "I don't know how to fix any of this," he said, voice hollow. I rubbed his back. "I don't either," I admitted softly. This was beyond anything we ever imagined. We sat in silence for a minute, both of us spent and heartsick. Eventually, I realized we should probably pause and regroup another time. I gently told him I was going to go home, but that I'd call later and that I wasn't abandoning him. He nodded, exhausted and grief-stricken. "I love you, kiddo," he managed to say as I got up to leave. "I love you too, Dad," I replied, my voice breaking. Walking out of that house was surreal. The congratulations cards were still on the mantel, a stark contrast to the misery unfolding. I felt like I was leaving the wreckage of a crash. I sat in my car for a moment after, watching through the window as my dad remained on the couch, head in his hands. It was one of the saddest sights I've ever seen. And me? I just felt empty. Empty and sad and strangely relieved all at once. Relieved that my father finally took a stand, but devastated that it came at such a cost. None of this was how it was supposed to be.